We've got everybody back. So, Andrew, you watched Deadpool and Wolverine, but you didn't get to talk about it with Pete and I last week. So just want to get your thoughts on it real quick before we jump into other stuff.
Yeah, real quick. Definitely was satisfied. I saw it at 9 in the morning, in New York with Saloni. She actually hadn't seen any. I was like, this is the kind of movie where you don't have to have a lot of background to enjoy it.
Mhm.
She loved it. She thought it was hilarious. I thought it delivered pretty much everything I wanted to see. I actually even remember like thinking to myself, this is spoilerific, by the way. So if you haven't seen it, like leave or whatever, but I'm gonna just spoiler the hell out of it. I was like, I hope I see Henry Cavill or um, Daniel Radcliffe as a variant, and one of the two showed up, and I was very, very happy with that. You know, the cameos didn't feel to me lame. They all felt earned. Like I liked when you hear like Chris Evans' voice, and for a second
Mhm.
you're like, was that Cap? But then you realize it's actually Human Torch, and I was like, that's cool. Blade showing up, like finally, it's funny. I keep forgetting his name, but the guy who played Remy LeBeau, I
Channing
know
Tatum.
Channing Tatum, he's wanted to play that for so long. So the
Yes.
fact that he actually got his chance to do it in live action, I was just like, this is cool. And he was actually better than I thought he was going to be, although he looked a little chunky in the role. Like it was still like I bought it. Overall, even like I liked how it even opened because it didn't undo Logan at all. Like it
Nope.
definitely from the very beginning, it's like it starts off from that scene and Logan is dead. Like that Logan, he's gone. But the way they integrated my God, I'm doing terrible tonight. But Hugh Jackman, the way they integrated Hugh Jackman into the universe was just brilliant. The chemistry between him and Ryan Reynolds was flawless. Um, I think the bad guy, if you will, like Professor X's like twin sister or whatever,
Yeah,
like
Cassandra
she
Nova.
might have been the weakest link, but I mean, whatever, who cares? Like that's like I feel like she wasn't really the point. The point was like the interaction and
Mhm.
just everything the way it left off. So overall, I mean, I would just say, I'm surprised if there's anybody who's watching this who hasn't seen it, you probably have kids and couldn't make it to the theater. But if not, you've already seen it. So for those who haven't seen it, just fucking see it. It was everything I could have hoped, and I look forward to seeing what happens moving forward.
Yeah, I felt like it. I said this in the last episode. I feel like it wasn't necessarily um nothing happened in that movie that necessarily redirects the future of the MCU. Like if that movie hadn't happened, we could easily just move on with whatever's coming next and we'd be fine. Like it's not a linchpin movie, but at the same time, like for the box office, and almost for the box office worldwide, not just for the MCU, but for just the box office as the box office.
Yeah.
I think this was kind of a needed thing this summer. Like this is the summer blockbuster came out. I think Twisters came out the weekend before, something
I
like
think it
that.
just
Like
came out this weekend, right?
no, my son saw it on Thursday, I think.
Okay.
So it's been out for at least a week or two.
Hmm.
But like that one, I saw a quote from what's his bucket, the star of that one. That's
And you're talking
Sydney
about,
Glenn Powell.
yeah.
Glenn Powell. Um, he said, growing up, the whole point of summer movies was just to have fun at the theater. And, that's why he did Twisters. That's why he was excited to do it. And I think between that, I haven't read too much about it and I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I know I'm not going to go to the theater. Um, but I think that one did okay. Deadpool is
Killing it.
just going off, just absolutely destroying the box office right now. So like the summer blockbuster is still alive. So it's good to see these ones kind of just kick ass and see what
Thank
happens
you.
for the rest of the year.
Thank you for saying that because one of the things that I get super passionate about again is, and I'll say it again because I can say it now and gloat. It's the lazy thinking of people who talk about, oh, there's comic book fatigue, and people are sick of comic book movies. Like, people aren't sick of the only thing people are sick of, in my opinion, is not good enough product, period. And actually, Lauren will appreciate this. When we worked at one job, there were projects that we would work on that had different names, like You and Your Family or Ready, Set, Grow or whatever. And people would say, oh, no one's going to buy that. That the project is dead. Its project is dead. And we single-handedly brought those projects back to life to the point where the amount you could sell a page for You and Your Family went up from like 10 grand to like 40 grand, like the average page sold, right? So it's not, our toxic boss would say, it's not the project, it's the people. It's the people, not the project. The people working on it are what determines whether it succeeds or fails, which is why I was handcuffed to those two, because I was working on those projects and made sure I had the right people on my team to actually bring it up. And it's the same thing with the movies. You have to have the right people working on it. Kevin Feige has proven time and time again that he can deliver if you let him cook. And if you do, and if you don't spread him too thin, what happened with Phase 4? But now it's like less clutter, more concentration. Let Ryan Reynolds do his thing, and we have a blockbuster. So, I just look at my eyes. If you say my presence, comic book fatigue, it's not personal, but I will lose a little bit of respect for you because it's lazy. This movie proved it's bullshit. If your movie is good, people will come. And we had this conversation. Of course, there's exceptions, but for the most part, you have a good franchise and it's good, people will show up, period. Don't want to hear it. Star Wars failed because the shit wasn't that good. Marvel Phase 4 was failing because it wasn't up to where it needed to be. But is Wolverine and Deadpool, or Deadpool and Wolverine, is it Endgame? No, it's not. But it's still doing, it's about to hit $1 billion. I'm sure it will.
Yeah, it will potentially hit $1 billion this weekend.
And what specifically would you guys say, because I'm hearing good things about it from friends of mine, what's making this particular film so successful?
I was waiting for Andrew to finish, because I think I'm noticing that the films that do the best right now, this is going into last year too, are the ones with proper viral marketing. If you look at what has been successful, it was Barbenheimer last year, which had nothing to do with television advertising. It had everything to do with the buzz. And however that buzz was generated, I don't know. But I think we're in a different era right now, because we're in the streaming era, because you don't get regular television commercials in people's faces like you used to. I think viral marketing is where it is. Everybody has been talking about Deadpool and Wolverine forever. Nobody was talking about the Marvels. Nobody talked about, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Like these movies weren't talked about in the same way. They weren't in your face in the same way. And I think that was part of it. Now Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, we've talked about how there are certainly flaws with that movie. I think the Marvels was a much better movie than it got credit for. Agreed. It should have done better at the box office. It should have done better with reviews. I think review wise, it did good. Social media wise, it didn't do well because people were bad mouthing it before it even came out because of X, Y, and Z. Like there's reasons, right? And I think Marvel and other film companies would do well to figure out how to get somebody in that can master this section of the marketing at this point. Like, I know that there are people that do this, but you need to find those people that can shut the critics down, or at least put them kind of off the side in their place, and then push your own stuff out in front of it. Deadpool and Wolverine didn't suffer from that, because Deadpool and Wolverine is his third in a very successful couple of movies. It is, Hugh Jackman's coming back. Like, there's a lot of buzz around it anyways. But I just think we can't wait for TV advertising to be the thing anymore, because it doesn't work like that right now.
I agree. And you were basically said what I was going to say, which is the track record. The fact is, you have a positive track record with the first two movies, and even with Captain Marvel. That one did $1 billion, but because it came in between the two best films, Infinity War and Endgame. So it does matter. If the previous movie doesn't do well, it's going to hurt the following movie. If the previous movie does do well, it'll help the following movie. So to me, that's what happened. There's also an authenticity that to Ryan Reynolds as a brand, as a person.
Yeah.
Same with Hugh Jackman, that I don't think Brie Larson has, frankly. And I think also going back to TV, when I was here in Vegas, like everyone stopped. Like people were stopping in the streets to watch the Deadpool versus Wolverine trailer, the teaser drop during the Super Bowl. So it's like, so to your point, like they were just smart on all levels. And even going back to the movie itself, the way they tied up all the loose ends for the other Marvel characters from all the other films, there's just a certain respect for what happened in the past and what's moving forward that a lot of the other movies don't have. So Lauren, frankly, I think that what this movie has, that also I think a lot of the other Marvel movies have, is a true knowledge and respect for the mythology and flawless execution on all counts, on the screen as well as the marketing. But all these other movies, you've got people who have no real comic book background, who are just getting in there, making movies, and then thinking, oh, all I got to do is wear a pair of tights and I'm going to be huge. It's not that simple at all.
Yeah. Another thing too is if you're not a Marvel movie fan, if you haven't seen all the movies or whatever, thing to keep in mind about Deadpool and Wolverine, it's a buddy comedy. Now, they are the inspiration, or one of the main inspirations that Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds took from, was Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, which is Steve Martin and John Candy. And it's the same idea. Like, they are frenemies the whole time. Like, they do not get along, but they're stuck in this thing together. And then at the end, everything comes together. And Deadpool and Wolverine, well, it's not formulaic like that. It's not the exactly same thing. It's the same idea. And so, it's still kind of what the first two Deadpools are also. There's a found family kind of thing. There's, him growing as a character. That's another thing too that's great about all three of these movies, is there is character growth for this character through them. I think, like you said about authenticity too, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds isn't Deadpool. Like, that's the thing. Like, Rob Liefeld started Deadpool before Ryan Reynolds was a thing, but you can see, if you watch Blade 3, the character that Ryan Reynolds plays in Blade 3 is the early Deadpool. Like, because they said that because so many lines in that movie were supposed to go to Wesley Snipes, but Wesley Snipes was very Wesley Snipes. And they were like, and he wouldn't say some of the lines. So they ended up giving them to Ryan Reynolds, and then he would work them and change them. And then you get, Deadpool beta, right? Like the beta version of Deadpool. Then he signed on to do Wolverine Origins. And they're like, hey, you get to be Deadpool. And he's like, fuck yeah. And they're like, by the way, we're going to just tank this character. And they totally ruined Deadpool in that movie.
With Barakapool. But I actually heard, like, in the comics, like, I think they even say, like, in the comics, like, I think, like, I used to look like Ryan Reynolds or something. So there's a lot of just meta stuff happening.
Oh, yeah.
Which again speaks to the authenticity. I think that no matter what, is if you're real, people hate fake. No matter what, fake does not sell, and force does not sell. So yeah, I actually think that, another thing I remember, when Disney bought Fox, people were like, oh, like, the MCU is going to ruin Deadpool because it's rated R. And because I'm a Feige stan and I have not been proven wrong, I said, Feige's not dumb enough to mess with that formula.
Yep.
It's going to be an R-rated movie. And I even posted a meme. I think the F word has been said in the MCU 118 times. And the first time was in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and the other 117 times were in Deadpool and Wolverine. So, no, Feige's a smart guy, and smart guys of his caliber, they're rare.
One thing that I saw too that is really cool is, if you see interviews with people that Ryan Reynolds brought into this movie, so Channing Tatum, Chris Evans, him and Hugh Jackman are best buddies, so it doesn't really count. But like, other people talked about getting the call from Ryan Reynolds and how easy it was to say yes.
Yes.
Like,
even Wesley, I think he personally called Wesley.
Yep.
Was okay,
yep.
You come.
Which is funny because there's an interview out right now where Wesley Snipes is like, no, 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 we were just screwing around. We've been friends the whole time. Everybody's like, cool, Wesley, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you know, I don't. Ryan Reynolds is an interesting guy because he doesn't make a ton of movies. Like he's not like way out there, but like the things that he makes are always popular. Like I discovered Ryan Reynolds on in Van Wilder. I
That's
think
right.
a handful of people discovered him in Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, which came out before that, the TV series. Um,
For me, it was Just Friends. Yeah, Just Friends.
mhm. And you know, he's one of those guys that yes, he's an actor and he's in a movie, but most of his characters are Ryan Reynolds. Um, he did the one where he was buried alive, and that one was relatively dramatic. Like he's done a few dramatic roles
Yeah.
and he's done them really well, but I think that was one of the reasons that he probably wasn't the right fit for Green Lantern, is that that character didn't get to be Ryan Reynolds, right? Like it's not the right character. Like Hal Jordan isn't as funny as Ryan Reynolds. It's just not. So and that's kind of what held him back in If that I talked about a few weeks back, the animated one. Or the not animated, but live action with animated characters, the Imaginary Friends one that John Krasinski directed. Um, you know, he was like the kid friendly, like tamed down version of Ryan Reynolds, which is fine. Like he wasn't bad, but you lose some of his star power when he can't just, you know, go nuts.
Agree.
It's like bringing in a stand-up comedian that does a certain kind of comedy and then telling him, yeah, but you have to go do this clean comedy. You know, it's like Bill Burr. You bring in Bill Burr and then tell him he's got to go do a family-friendly comedy, and you lose some edge of Bill Burr, you know. Not to say that they can't do it. It's just it's better when they get to be themselves, like when, like I said, authentic.
Cool.
So yeah. So, anyways, but yeah, Lauren, you should go see it. It is a little violent, but in a like in a funny way. Like it's like that's a weird thing to say, but it's not like it's fun. Like that's all I can really say. It's just it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's silly for sure. You'll be laughing the whole time. It does not at no real point does it take itself too seriously. There are some sort of dramatic moments with Wolverine in there. There are a lot of things that you can either miss or have go over your head if you're not 100% familiar with the Deadpool series and Ryan Reynolds as Ryan Reynolds. There's a handful of jokes just about him and his wife and his life in there that are easily missed too. But it doesn't matter. You can miss like 15% of the jokes and still absolutely love the movie. So yeah, I'd be actually be really curious because I know this isn't your favorite thing, but I'd be really curious to see what you thought of it if you go see it because
Yeah,
I think
a lot of
it's really
my
enjoyable.
close friends have seen it and have mentioned that it's really good. And I think a lot of it, like you guys were saying, it's the authenticity that both Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds bring to the screen. They're two of the most charismatic guys in Hollywood. Personally, like I don't think there's anything I wouldn't be open to seeing with Hugh Jackman. The guy is incredibly talented. I've seen him in numerous films over the years between Les Mis and um, haven't seen him in any of the Wolverine movies, but I mean, I enjoyed him in The Greatest Showman, which is probably one of my favorite films to date.
Which The Greatest Showman shows up in Deadpool and Wolverine.
What?
Oh, totally. And also what I love about Hugh is like he's so I think humble and grateful because I think that he really feels a kinship with this role. This is the role that put him on the
Oh
map.
yeah, for sure.
Right.
So, you know, for him, it's like there's love for it. And Feige even told him, like, do not come back. Like this, you had the perfect end to your like career with Logan. But then it was like they talked Kai Feige into it. He was like, okay, as long as you here's are my conditions. I don't think it's like a spoiler to say this. Like, gotta wear the fucking suit. You gotta wear the yellow suit.
Mhm.
You wear the yellow suit, you can come back. And he wants to keep playing Wolverine. And I think that that's crazy because like that is so not what I like. He's defying the odds. It's like most like a mediocre like studio, which is like all studios pretty much, would recast the guy and then just try to reinvent the wheel, and it wouldn't be as good. And instead, they're like, no, let's do something different. Let's bring him back, even though he's like fucking 24 years after he played it the first time, and he's still killing it. There's nothing weird about it. So
Arguably the best performance that he's done as Wolverine, to be honest, other than Logan. It's a different,
yeah,
definitely a
it's
different
a different
version of the
Logan.
character.
Yeah,
But I just mean performance wise, like I think they're a little different. Logan maybe is the better of the two overall performance because there's a little more nuance to what he's going through and like the emotions that he has to go through in Logan. Um, but I mean, he's incredible in Deadpool and Wolverine. So
he's been think that he is the heart and soul of the. Oh my god! Last thing. Thank you for reminding me. I love the end credits when they give like a farewell to the Fox universe. I'm getting chills
yeah,
here.
yeah, that
Like
was awesome.
seriously, that to me is like again the difference between again the Feigeverse and like everyone else. Instead of pretending the other things didn't happen, it's like no, they did happen. We're grateful for what happened, and we honor you. And we're now saying we're giving you your send off, and that was beautiful.
Yeah, and there are moments in there from people that will, I mean, it may still show up at the MCU, but at this point
Yeah.
haven't and probably never will. You got Holly Berry that like they showed some of her clips of Storm,
Yeah.
like they covered everybody,
Yes.
and I thought it was
Beautiful.
not necessary, but it was well done.
Oh, so well. Again, I'm just getting
Yeah.
goosebumps just thinking about it because it was like, no, they did their thing. Was it perfect? No, but it was what we had, and I
Mhm.
was grateful for what we had.
If somehow anybody is watching this by the time this thing drops and you haven't seen it, like Andrew said, just go watch it. It's worth every penny you're going to spend on it. To be honest, I think for the first time I saw it in the biggest theater in the theater we usually go to, and it was great on the big screen. Like not IMAX, but I can imagine it'd be great on IMAX if you could see it on the IMAX. But um, it really is a great movie. Like it's just that's all I can say. Like even if it wasn't a comic book movie, it's still it's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. Um, so all right, well, we'll move on from that. I will come back to you, Andrew, and I'll let you go in a second, Lauren. But since we're talking about current stuff, I'll talk about the show behind me real quick. Apparently, this is based on a book. The show is called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And I saw it pop on Netflix, and I thought I had heard about it before, but I didn't know why. So I went ahead and threw it on. And if you recognize this girl at all, she's Wednesday's best friend from Wednesday.
Yes.
She's absolutely adorable in Wednesday. She is a hair more adult and a little less adorable in this, but still like sweet. And the gist of this story is it takes place in the UK somewhere. Um, and she has a end of the year project to do for her English class, and it's like I don't know if she has to write a paper or she just to research something and then talk about it. But she chooses to do a murder that happened in her town 5 years ago of a girl. I think this girl in this picture right here. And she was one of the last people to actually see this girl alive. And it's kind of always eaten away at her because she saw her and then she told somebody to go find or where she was, and then she ended up murdered. And so it's only 6 episodes. It goes real quick. Um, this particular story is closed up at the end of those 6 episodes. So if they never make another season, they don't have to. I guess the YA series has 3 books in it, so they could potentially do more. But it does close up really nicely. It's not the most mature story in the world. Like it's YA, and I kind of got that feel, but at the same time, like it wasn't so bad that I was like, I got to turn this off. I'm not 13, like it's okay. Um, it's not. I think it tries to be a little more twisty and turny than it actually is, but not so again kind of the running theme of it, not so much that it makes it a bad show. Like it's an entertaining show, especially if you're down for just watching teenagers go through some stuff. This show, if it was on TV, would be on, I don't know, like ABC Family or something like that, but like the late night version of ABC Family. Like it's more mature than 15 and 16-year-old, but not so, mature that it's adult, I think there was an F-bomb or two in there. Like they at least keep the dialogue realistic. There's drug use in it. There's things like that. So it definitely has some interesting stories to tell and some places to go. And I think the ending of it, um, not entirely unpredictable, but still relatively surprising, I think. So, it's worth just following along and seeing, who did what and all that jazz. And all the performances are really solid. I really like the girl. Her name is, I think, Emma.
Emma Myers.
Yeah, Emma Myers. I think she's going to have a nice little career. I think she's going to have to break out. Oh, I guess Wednesday is technically out of the UK, right? So she'll have to take some more probably American roles to really blow up. But I think she's going to do okay for herself as long as she just keeps working. Um, she does really well in it. She's the closest thing to a name in the show, though I didn't recognize anybody else, which is kind of nice sometimes. It's kind of nice to just watch a show where you don't recognize anybody and you don't have any expectations. And I think that makes it a lot of fun too. Um, but I would say if you've got 6 hours to kill in a week and you're just looking for something, you know, a little light but a little mysterious and all that jazz, it goes pretty quick. Like I might have watched the entire thing in a day. Um, so it's a lot of fun. So I would say go give it a watch if you've got the time um and check it out. So going from that to stick with, I don't think it's YA, but it's a little dramatic. Lauren, you watched the Crawdads one.
Where the Crawdads Sing.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah,
Now,
so
I was
go
going
ahead.
to say I've heard of it, but I don't remember what it's about. So I'm really curious about it because I know that it was supposed to be kind of a big deal when it came out because of
What?
the book, right?
Right. The book came out in 2018 and it's written by Delia Owens. I had never read the book. A lot of my friends had read the book. My cousin read the book, and then I ended up going to the theater with my cousin who read the book. And based on the previews, it looked very good. It stars Daisy Edgerton. She's in the new Twister movie.
Daisy
So
Edgar Jones.
yes, thank you. Daisy Edgar Jones, who I believe is a British actress,
Hmm.
and she plays Kaya, who is the protagonist in this film. And it's about this woman young woman who comes from a very poor family and lives in the marsh in the 1950s out of South Carolina. And she has a family with, I believe, like one or two brothers, two sisters, an abusive father, and then mother. And while she's growing up, they live in this cabin like among the marsh, and she consistently is exposed to her mother getting beaten up by her father, and they breeze through it a bit, I think, in the beginning of the film, according to my cousin and friends of mine that have read the book. The abuse itself is really more so detailed when you're reading it versus actually watching it on screen. And one day her mother just ups and leaves and runs away because she just can't handle it anymore. She leaves and abandons her children, and packs, leaves, takes a boat, is out. And then one by one, all the siblings flee. And the youngest Kaya, who is the protagonist, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, she stays. And her closest sibling is a brother, Jody. He ends up leaving, saying, sorry, I gotta get out of here. And she's stuck with this abusive father. And eventually he ends up passing away. And she's able to, at a certain point in time, she just stays there at this house, at this cabin in the marsh. And it's gotten to the point where I believe she's like 7 or 8, and she hasn't even been to school. She wears the same old clothing that she's worn for years. And it's to the point where she's on her own. She sells mussels to the local general store. And I think people just she gets a reputation of being the marsh girl. So people know her, they fear her, they find her weird and dirty. She doesn't have shoes. She walks around town selling these mussels for money, and she's got the house. And she spends her time drawing just things that she sees in the marsh and nature and seashells. And she comes across and meets this guy, Tate, who she met years prior as a child, who also has a boat, who lives in the town. And he teaches her how to read, and they slowly but surely form a bond, which turns in from friendship to a romance. And then once they turn to, it goes through adolescence as they grow closer, and he ends up going to college. And she, of course, is sad for him to go, but she knows that's best for him. And he tells her that, I'll be back for you July 4th, a couple months from now. He never shows up. So she is obviously distressed, upset, moves on. And then she meets a couple years later a star athlete for the local, I believe, football team, a guy by the name of Chase Andrews. And he's played by Harris Dickinson, who's rising. He's in a lot of different films. Most recently, he was in The Iron Claw, which I saw. He was in The Darkest Minds, which I saw prior to the pandemic. Other films as well. He plays Chase Andrews, and at the beginning of the film, I should have prefaced this star athlete is found dead after falling off of a fire tower. And the star, well, I shouldn't say the star, well, the key witness, or I shouldn't say key witness, but everyone thinks that the Marsh girl has done it, because there was rumors that they were connected, and they think that she's the one who killed him. So they go through her story, but prior to that, she is on trial for murdering Chase Andrews, this star athlete. And then it sort of unfolds, goes into her life story from pretty much childhood up until this point in time in her late teens, I guess early 20s, when this mysterious murder happened. And a lot of it, granted, I didn't read the book, so I didn't know. It's a question of, did she do it? Did she not do it? Did someone else do it? She's this very just, I don't want to say uneducated, but she's just not exposed to the stuff that the average person at her age is exposed to. She lives in a cabin, she draws, and she has very little interaction with the townspeople in South Carolina, in the town she lives in. And it's a question of just, was this girl set up? What's going on? So it is a very interesting film, and you learn a lot about her bravery and just how she not only was abused by her father, but you come to find that this Chase Andrews person, who's this star quarterback, has a thing for her, and they develop a relationship, and then he starts abusing her as well. And you get to see, that side of the relationship, which other people don't know about. So it's a lot of different series of events. She's trying to get a book published based on her own illustrations, and she meets with a publisher during the time of his murder. So she couldn't possibly been there, and you get to learn about these series of events and from different perspectives. So if you haven't seen it, I really do encourage you to see it. If you like murder mystery type of films, you'd like this. It's great. It's not based on a true story. It's based on this book written by Delia Owens, who I believe was very there was some sort of controversy at the time the movie came out. I forgot why, but I know she was like under investigation or something like that in 2022 at the time. And that was pretty topical as well. I'm just typing in now, like Delia Owens, controversial. But yeah, I thought it was great. I didn't really know too many of the actors in the film, but it starts a little slow, but it really does pick up once you get past her childhood. David Strathairn,
Yeah,
he
David Strathairn. Yeah.
yeah, he plays the attorney. I'd seen him before in a few
Mhm.
films.
Her dad is Garrett Dillahunt, who I love.
Yeah,
Um,
He was
what's
in the Connor Chronicles as determined.
Yes, yeah. What's really interesting is this got destroyed by the critics on
Yeah,
Rotten
I looked at that
Tomatoes.
too. 30,
34% from the critics, but 96%
96.
from the audience. And
it was very good. Go
I
ahead.
feel like this is that thing where the critics know the source material, and instead of just watching a movie and reviewing the movie, they're reviewing it as an adaptation. And because I've seen this on a few films that are adaptations, and the critics, because remember we talked about Amy Winehouse, they did Back to Black, and the
Right,
audience score was really high, but the critic score was really low. And the main complaint from the critics was, oh, well, this didn't talk about X, Y, and Z about her life.
right.
And we were like, cool, but that doesn't make it a bad movie. It just makes it a less informed movie, which it's allowed to be. So it's really interesting. But the spread there is pretty freaking huge. That's a huge spread.
So you're right. Scott Tobias says the PG-13ness of Where the Crawdads Sings buffs every rough edge off this story. The abuse, the abandonment, the betrayal, the sex, and even the alleged murder. It would be better off as trash. Someone else writes, Edgar Jones' easygoing allure isn't enough to bind Where the Crawdads Sing together, though leaving the film a generic, dull outing. So it's like I think they just see it as safe.
Yeah.
Whereas the book was probably a lot more gritty.
Yeah.
Right.
But hey, dude, first of all, to make a film for only 24 million and then gross
Oh, damn.
144.3 million, sorry, dude, it's called a bottom line for a reason. The film was a hit. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's hard. Deadpool is proving the exception to the rule, but like it's hard to make money as an R-rated film. It's not, as soon as you cut out a large portion of your audience or the available audience, it's hard
Yeah.
to make money. Like you've got to be great or you make nothing. And so I think PG-13 and a lot of times, yeah, it's safe, but it's also fiscally smart.
Hmm.
Yeah, and also I was reading as well, like the people at Sony were like, look, like this defied the odds. It's geared towards women. It is not a franchise film,
Mhm.
and it kicked ass when people are talking about Hollywood, movies. Like it's hard to make money at the box office at this point. So, yeah, I mean, by all, and Reese Witherspoon was one of the producers. So yeah, by all intents and purposes, it kicked ass. Now, I will say to be contrarian, Deadpool and Wolverine was rated R and it's kicking ass. So
It's
I don't
the
think being
rare,
rated
yeah.
R will kill you. Again, you just have to be better. Like you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
But
Right.
to be fair, I don't think women are necessarily fair film unless it's like, fucking what's his name? The gray shit. You know what I'm talking about. 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
Like
50
if
Shades.
it's gonna be all steamy and shit, then maybe it'll show up. But if it's like, R and it's like dark and shit, then yeah, maybe not. Don't fuck with the formula. Whatever you guys did, it worked.
Yeah. Another
Yeah.
thing too, like I know it's not the same movie, but The Marsh King's Daughter came out around the same time. And I think that one did poorly, but it was Ray from Star Wars. What's her name?
Daisy
Daisy
Ridley.
Ridley. It was Daisy Ridley, and then Ben Mendelsohn was her dad. And same thing, like her, it was not the same thing, but Ben Mendelsohn kidnapped a woman, got her pregnant, kept the mom and the daughter in a cabin in the woods, finally got caught. So then she comes back to civilization,
Yeah.
grows up, has a daughter. It kind of skips over the part that is Where the Crawdads Sing, right? Because she's pretty much a teenager, right?
They
Or
start
early
off
20s,
as
maybe.
so they start off in the beginning of the film is during the trial, right? Like
Right. Okay.
start off during the trial, and then they go back to her past of when she lived with her family in the cabin, and they're just how everything originated there, and then everyone leaving one by one, and she's just kind of on her own
Yeah.
for many years at that point, at least like 10, maybe 15 years, and she has to learn how to live life. I think she's probably like 7, 8, 9 years old by the time her father's the last one to leave, and I assume because he ends up becoming like he's an alcoholic. We assume like he leaves and then eventually like drinks her. I at least think he drinks himself to death and he just bounces, and she's got nowhere to go. She's super young, and all she does is like takes her boat out and gets these mussels to make money and creates art during the day to try to hopefully get this deal with a publisher so she can keep her home. She wants peace. She doesn't want to bother anyone, but yet there's something about this girl that I guess to both this male who she develops a relationship with, Tate, in the beginning, and this star football player that they find alluring about her, mysterious. She's different. She's not like the educated townspeople that went to the public school. She is rough around the edges. She's quiet. She's someone that is more of an observer of her surroundings. And I think they sort of vilify and make this mysteriousness about her, and everyone is pretty much in on and convinced that she killed Chase Andrews, this star football player. And you come to learn, you know, who she truly is as a character. And not only that, just how this star football player that's so beloved by this town isn't really that great of a guy.
Yeah, it sounds really good. And to be honest, like I was saying, the Marsh King's Daughter is similar, at least a little bit. This sounds like a better movie. Like that one was okay, which is interesting to me because when you put Ben Mendelsohn and Daisy Ridley together, and I think there might have been even another name in there, like I would expect it to be really good. And the Marsh King's Daughter kind of just plodded along and
Yeah.
wasn't great. But this one sounds like it's probably a better one. I'm actually am really curious about it. I might try and watch it. Looks like
Yeah.
it's on Hulu right now.
Oh, I know I watched it on Netflix a couple months ago for the second
Okay.
time. It's been like, I think almost a year, if not a year since I had seen it. Um, but yeah, I liked it. Definitely interesting ending. Definitely not what I expected. It's a little slow at times, I will say. And maybe that's why the critics perhaps didn't really like it. I don't know, because I didn't read the book, but I know those who read the book did have some criticism about it. There's definitely a lot of themes of just male taking advantage of females, especially during that time in the 1950s. So you get to see that theme. But yeah, it talks about how resilient this woman really is, and especially given her economic disadvantages and everything that she's been through and how she's able to pull through over time. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Wasn't my favorite movie, but I definitely think it's worth the watch. And I know the book had a very big following and they finally made it into a film.
Yeah. That's cool. I think Reese Witherspoon is I think she's touching on that audience, that Andrew was referring to, like that really female driven audience in a way that works somehow. Like I don't, she did like this being a theatrical movie
Mm.
makes it a little more of an outlier, but Reese Witherspoon did
Morning
Big
show.
Little Lies. She's produced a handful of really quality shows and movies now, and I think I think she kind of knows. I mean, obviously she's a woman, right? I mean, she knows her audience a little bit, but I think she's doing a good job, focusing that.
She's
Um,
bringing forward books that she knows that other women will either resonate
yeah,
with or at least would find interesting, to the point where she's like, let's make this into a film.
yeah,
I think Taylor Swift's on the soundtrack from what I read too. That counts.
Yeah. Just add to that, put in T Swift, right?
yeah.
Tay Tay.
Tay Tay, hey. I didn't even, yeah, I looked that up on Wikipedia before this. I was like, oh, I didn't realize. But I'm also not a big Swiftie, or a Swiftie. I wouldn't identify as a Swiftie. So yeah. But furthermore, another reason to watch Where the Crawdads Sing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. So, all right, we'll move on, and then I'll have Andrew go back in time just a hair because you watched Civil War, not
Yeah.
Captain America Civil War. But
No, no. And I actually kind of, I want this to be a dialogue. You actually were the one who I think was most excited about this movie from like
mhm.
the group. And you went and saw it, I think, like immediately. Like you saw it right
I
away.
would have seen it in the theater if I could. I
Yeah,
couldn't, so I I was gonna rent it as soon as it became available, and it was like a $5 difference to rent or buy.
she's
And
bought it.
I was just like, I'll just buy it. And
Yeah.
I'm glad I did. I enjoy it. I'll watch it again. Um, but it is to me, and me and Andy agreed on this in our group chat. It didn't feel like what it was advertised to be. And that was sort of, I think, one of the problems with the movie. And I think, looking back, I think they probably felt like they had to advertise it that way to make it seem more exciting. And not that it wasn't exciting, like it definitely had its action moments and its big moments, but the advertising billed it as like the war, right? And it's not what it was. It was a story about ultimately it was a story about a young journalist who or the young journalist who thinks this is what she wants to do, and through her journey, um, finds out just how hard this war correspondent thing really is. It's not just you stand there and you snap that one lucky picture, or you take a bunch of pictures and they're okay. You have to go through some horrific stuff, and like, I don't know, not be okay with that, but at least be able to survive seeing that horrific stuff before it starts. Like, you have to literally see somebody being dragged to the gallows, hung up in the gallows, and then left in the gallows, and take those pictures all the way along the way to get that shot that works. It's like if you think about a nature photographer, they don't walk into the woods, take one picture, and leave, and it's the best picture they've ever taken. They're out there all day taking pictures, resetting, moving around, all this stuff. And it's just the acting in the movie is great. Like, I don't think anybody is off at all. I think the acting in it is phenomenal. Um, but it's just, it is much more of a thinking movie than it is an action movie by like a long way.
All right. So yeah, there was a definite bait and switch thing going on.
Mhm.
And what's funny though is I didn't even pay attention necessarily to who directed and wrote the movie or whatever. But then when a certain moment happened, then I realized, this is an Alex Garland movie for sure. And anyway, so here's what I'll say first of all. And I was basically here, I get a little controversial, but whatever, I'm opinionated. But I don't think my opinions are wrong. But anyways, Alex Garland is definitely he hates dudes. He is a man hater. All his movies are about how men suck, women are awesome, and I'm not saying like men don't suck. I think men can suck. I think everyone can suck. And I
Yeah.
think that it's all about building bridges. And it starts with when I saw Ex Machina and Mad Max Fury Road at the same weekend. And basically, the way I saw the way Ex Machina end was basically there is no resolution. Men suck, and this female AI is now like free to like just basically do what she wants, but she did it by kind of like fucking over her captor, but then also fucking over the guy who was like kind of enamored with her. But she's like, yeah, fuck you. I'm going to use your feelings against you and lock you in so you can just die. Fury Road, on the other hand, there's distrust. There's definitely some weird fucking rapey shit going on in Fury Road. But at the end, Mad Max and Furiosa come to terms. They actually built and then basically are able to overthrow Toxic Man. Okay. To me, they're different things. Let's go back to Alex Garland. So there's a scene. Actually, let me go back to even the bait and switch. The film in my head, I jokingly said the film should be called Fembed. And what I mean by fembed is in that it's embedded reporters or embedded photographers in the army, but it's definitely a woman's tale. I did some reading and he talked about how it could have been a guy or a girl, but we've seen guys do this shit. So it'd be boring. So let's just do a woman thing. So it's a deliberate choice. Then when they're in this like store, And you're right, the performances are amazing. But Kirsten Dunst, who I think is reinventing herself as a serious
Yes, for
actress, and no
sure.
longer, Bring It On is over. It's like this, yo, I like you. Anyway, Kirsten Dunst is like this older, wiser photographer, and Kaylee Spaney is the young one who's trying to like be like her, like you're my hero. Anyway, they're having a moment in a store where she's like, "Hey, Kirsten Dunst, like lighten up, don't be so serious. Get the dress." So
Mhm.
she tries on a dress. Kaylee takes a picture. She's like, "You're prettier when you smile." So Kristen's like, and they take a picture. Then this dude who's like a total like whatever, he walks in. He's like, "Hey, like this hat," and he's like, "Take a picture of me." And then she's like, yeah, no, I don't have enough film." And it was a definite like, fuck you. It was just like, hey, we're having a girl moment. Like, I know you're trying to like be with us, but like, fuck you. I'm gonna lie about my film because you're lame, and that's that. And I was like, okay, that's whatever. Anyway, now that I got that off my chest, going back to the film, holy shit, it is dark. It like Alex Garland, even though in terms of what he has to say, I think that he's a little half baked, a little shallow. Um, his visuals and his atmospheric storytelling is holy crap. It's immersive and it's deeply unsettling. I think Devs was unsettling, and I
Yes.
think this movie is unsettling. I was disturbed. The way he's able to depict killing in such a routine, cold manner is chilling. It's like you're actually watching people get killed. It's not glorified, it's just very matter of fact. And I think that's what makes it feel like chilling. Um, Basically, to now to really reel it back, Texas and California have become the Western like front or something.
Mhm.
And they want to overthrow the president, who apparently is played by Nick Offerman. Great. I gotta say also, the thing I like about Garland, he uses a lot of the same actors, and that's great. It's like, what's his name from Netflix, who's not going on Prime. You know what I'm talking about. I forget his
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so basically they don't really talk about what started this war, why they're at war, and the fact that Texas and California would even link up, as everyone has said, is fucking ridiculous. Like, are you serious right now? So I feel like that's the kind of the shallow part. It's like, if you're gonna call a movie Civil War and then have it in a time where America's super divided, you've missed an opportunity to actually have a bit more of a like serious exploration of like how a nation can fall apart. But instead, what this movie really is about the unsung heroes who document the darkest situations in war. And I think it brings home the point that all the war-torn stuff that happens overseas that we just don't really, it's over there. Like, Ukraine's over there. We don't, whatever. No, when you bring it home to the US, it brings that whole terror home. And I think, if anything, it makes us think twice about how lucky we are and how we shouldn't take peacetime for granted. And we should really maybe tone down the violent rhetoric. And we should really think about, oh, the guy shouldn't have missed hitting Trump. Like, stop all that mess, guys. Because once the shooting starts, like, the humanity ends. And at one point, there's even a part where there's a sniper situation happening, and they're asking questions like, what's happening? Are they part of the resistance? Are they part of whatever? And then the guy looks at him like, are you a retard? Like, oh, I get it. You are a retard. Like, this is what's happening. They're trying to kill us and we're trying to kill them.
Mhm.
End of story. And I think that at some point when it comes to war, that's what it is. It's not about all these big ideas anymore. Once you open that Pandora's box, it's violence, and violence is bad. But I should have to say that, but it fucking is. Um, Everyone brought their A game. I've got to call out this guy, Stephen McKinley Henderson. He was in Devs, older actor, curly hair. Like, he was in Devs, he was in Dune 1, and now he's in this, and I love him. He's in his
Mhm.
70s. He plays the older role well. And I bring him up just to say something else that I saw when I was reading on it. And that is, for some peculiar reason, a lot of the visceral deaths, he liked to use black bodies. I'm just being real. the first guy who gets shot in front of the woman, the young girl, he's trying to run. He gets shot. She's taking his pictures. He dies. The second guy, Stephen McKinley Henderson, you know, some of these people. Okay, let me slow down again, really quick, really quick. So the premise of this story is it looks like the Western Front's going to take Washington. So it's 4 people, and they want to get to the president and get a quote before it's too late. Okay, so it's Kirsten Dunst, it's little girl who wants to be like, I want to be a photographer. Then it's like Steve McKinley Henderson, and then this guy Wagner Moura, who's like this like sort of hunky like Latin guy who's in any other movie would be like the hero or whatever, but he's just kind of the play hero fool who cracks, you know, at the worst moments. Anyway, and he's also trying to, the reason why the little girl is there is because he's trying to get with her. Anyway, so they go down, and then, and then these 2 Asian guys who are foreign correspondents, they show up, they link up, she does some stupid shit, jumps in his car, they jump into the other car. I know I'm rambling now, but I'll get to the point. They get captured by, again,
Jesse Plemons.
Thank you, Jesse Plemons, who,
That scene.
by the way, in just like 10 minutes, okay, yo, that was the realest shit ever. Like, and again, like when he's just, anyway, I'm not going to spoil that shit, but I'm just saying that's what you see in the commercials where he talks about what kind of American are you? Like, you think that it's going to be all about that shit, but no, that was like so not the movie. It was just a small part. Well, it was a pivotal part. Anyway, old guy, black guy, is like, if we go down there, we're going to die. And they're like, we're going to go down there anyway. They go down there anyway. Of course, shit's going bad. He jumps in a truck, saves their asses, but in the process, of course, dies. So it's like, that's the second one. The third black woman, she's like a press person, and she's trying to negotiate like peace, like, you know, some sort of terms for the president. Boom, kills her. You know, so it's like, it's noticeable. And I've noticed in a lot of like in what's his name, that guy, the director's movies, like, or shows, black people don't really exist. And the only one who does is super pale, and if they do exist, they get killed. Anyway, yes, there's one black woman who's like a soldier, but again, she's just a fucking soldier. Here's what I'll say about this movie: see it, but I think really what you'll take away from it is photography is not easy. And the journalists, there's this agency called Magnum, and it's a big deal. That's what I think the movie should have been called, Magnum. And because it's really a story about what it takes to get crazy historical pictures. They are risking their lives. I bet you a lot of these photojournalists, that these pictures we see, a lot of them are dead. And they probably got killed in combat. And the combat scenes are so realistic. It's like I could feel the bullets whizzing by my head. So you know, I just gotta say, you know, I just gotta say that even though Alex Garland, I do think you're a bit of a simp, you know, if you've heard that term, I still want to meet you. I still want to have a conversation with you. And if I was a producer, I would want to hire you to remake Neon Genesis Evangelion live action. I think you would kill it, because I think that devs borrowed from that shit. I really do. And B, the way you're able to show soldiers summarily killing people who have their hands up, I surrender, they don't care, boom, you're dead. You know, you see that in Evangelion. War is bad, and we already know war is bad, but I think this movie really drives it home. So all of that said, I'm now gonna be quiet, and I want to hear what you have to say, Kevin, because I got a lot off my chest.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it's called Civil War, because yes, it is. There is a civil war going on, but it's just, that's not what it's about. I think the things that I found the most interesting were that sniper shootout, right? Because there's a dynamic there that literally, like you said, is just, I'm trying to kill them before they kill me. They're shooting at us. We have to shoot back. That's it, plain and simple. There's no thought there. You have the genuinely not good people like the Jesse Plemons, You know, like the way that he rolls through that scene is dark. Like, but he like as an actor, unbelievable.
I apologize. I have to jump in. He wasn't even supposed to be in that scene. Like basically they had another actor. The other actor couldn't make it. So then like Kirsten Dunst is like, will he let Jesse do it? And then Alex Arnold's like, fuck yeah, sure. Jesse shows up. He deliberately keeps himself apart from the rest of the cast because he knows how dark it is, and then just knocks it out. So I just wanted to say that he just did that without even being part of like the original production. He just came in as a villain, and I think actually kind of stole the show. All right, keep
I
going.
feel like Jesse Plemons is like the new Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like people don't talk about him enough, but everything he does, whether it's comedy or drama or whatever, he kills. Like he's great. And I think I feel like his journey is just starting. Like I think he's gonna have a better career going forward than behind him. Um, because yeah, that performance was insane. I think the other one that is really telling too is that when they're driving, they're trying to get there, they start to drive through this town, and all of a sudden everything is just normal. There's this part of the country that's far enough from the main fight.
That's where I'd be.
But
Keep going.
like literally, like they go through this town and they stop and they're shopping and they're looking around. Everything's 100% normal. And dude's like, there's a war going on, right? And she's like, yeah. She's like, we don't really bother with that, And it's just like, okay, like there would 100% be parts of the country that would just be like, whoever wins wins, and we'll deal with that. Like we can't get passionate about it, we can't get fired up about it. It's not like Texas, which is, a red state. They're always going to be like, not in this movie, but like in real life, Texas is a red state. Like they're always going to be on whatever side, Florida's on. Like they're going to be in the same place. You've got California is always going to be, blue and doing whatever. So, there's these places that will always be very politically charged in whatever side of the battle there is, and then you've got the parts of the country that are just whatever. They're like, we're not going to be politically affiliated. Whoever wins is our new president, and we'll just roll with it. And that's fine.
I gotta say as well, I was just in DC last week. So for me, I think it also felt visceral. Like I was literally
Mm.
just there. So when I was like seeing all that street fighting, like in the streets of DC, like I was just like that was just there. And like seeing like the White House like be infiltrated and all the fucking carnage happening in the White House, it was chilling. Um, and I will say, for as annoying as I found Kaylee, the Jesse, the aspiring journalist to be, like whatever we can be spoilery, like even getting Kirsten killed at this point, like because you're just so fucking careless. She got the fucking picture, And
Yep.
so for me, it's like I care about results more than anything. So I do think that the end, and for me, the ends do justify the means. So, if you sign up for this job, just know you're going to die. Like it's literally like you could die at any time. But, it also begs the question, like, is it really that important? Like to get pictures of this shit? Like, is it? That's a whole nother conversation. But to me, it's like, but I get it because as you guys know, I'm all about posterity. I take pictures left and right. I collect shit. Like I am Mr. Preserve shit. Like that's what I do. So I get it. So the fact that she got that picture, I'm not gonna spoil that, but you don't talk about
Yep.
that picture, dude. That's actually probably in the pantheon of American history. That's up there. So, and
Hmm.
you got it. It was you.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a few shots, and I don't remember what they were because it's been a minute since I saw it, but they were like shown through her taking the picture. And I wish I could describe it better because it's like on the edge of my memory and I can't quite remember it. But like the way they use just the taking of the picture from like literally the angle of the camera itself, like you're seeing through the lens of the camera as some of these pictures are happening, and the way the story is told, is really great too. Like I think Yeah, Alex Garland is an interesting dude for sure. Like if you watch Civil War and you like Civil War, when you're like, gosh, I wish there was a little more sci-fi stuff going on, go watch Devs. And then if you watch Devs and you're like, I wish there was even a little more sci-fi, then you go watch the
Annihilation.
the Android one.
Oh, Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. There you go. Yeah, or Annihilation. Annihilation was based on a book, so that's a little bit of a wasn't entirely him, but these ones were, and I think yeah, I just think it's a good movie and it's an interesting movie. I think it helps to go in knowing what it is because I can see at least some people going and expecting an action movie and being like, "What the fuck is this?" and leaving or turning it off because it's not that. There
Yeah.
is still a good amount of action.
Oh, there's action, but
Yeah.
just be honest. This is about photographers, embedded
Hmm.
photographers in war, which is why, again, if I was a studio, I would not have let Civil War be the name. I would have called it, I would find some way to champion photographers. I think that's a worthy cause, personally. But I get it. They want to be like, oh, we gotta like get these people in. But like, dude,
Yeah.
authenticity, man, authenticity.
Yeah. I think the name and the advertising tells you who they were trying to bring into the theater without, or them knowing what would sell and knowing that if you just said, "Hey, this is a movie about a photographer," people would be like, "Yeah, cool, I'll catch that later." You know what I mean? Like it, if you
But I
just
was
say that,
worried. I was worried about who they wanted to bring in because I was like, okay, there are real militia people out there, and I'm kind of scared of them, you know?
yeah,
So
well,
I
we
feel
saw
like,
them in this. Yeah, they're the Jesse
yeah,
Plemons. Yeah.
yes, and they're out there, and I was like, why are you giving them ideas? Like that was my thinking about this movie. I'm like, we don't need this movie right now. Like I was a little kind of, so I was like, Kevin likes it. Like, is Kevin okay? No, I'm joking. But like, no, but seriously,
I'm
like
not.
yeah, no, but I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is a responsible movie to come out, but but at least I'm relieved that it wasn't like it played it safe, but that it didn't even go into ideology or the reasons again for the
Hmm.
war, except to say if you try to be like a fucking dictator, you will go down, and that's certainly I think what this movie said. If
Yeah.
there's any message,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Thank you for letting me talk about it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It
It was
was
fun.
good. And like I said, I like it. Generally speaking, the critics and the audience has liked it. 80%, 81% from the critics, 70% from the audience. Um,
Oh wait, hold on. Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at something else. Keep going. Yeah. Okay.
but yeah, it's solid. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere yet. I think you still have
I
to.
bought it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't mind. It was like $5. Although that's another thing. I will never buy fucking non like HD again. I just bought it in SD. Yeah, shit was
Oops.
yeah. I have a decent sized TV and it was like blurry in places. I was like,
Yeah.
man, dude,
Yeah.
it was only $1 difference. I was being a miser.
Yeah.
Anyway, never again.
Yeah. 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 Never act like a poor person,
No.
man. Yeah. SD is just, it's old, man. It's old. That's all there is to it. That's like
Yeah.
back in the day, if you could buy a VHS or a DVD, you should just buy the
My
DVD.
DVD.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Lauren, did you have something else?
Yeah, I was going to talk about Saw 10.
All right. I know Saw's your jam. So
Saw
is
is my
that
day.
is that the most recent Saw?
It is the most recent
Okay.
Saw. Yep. Andrew and I saw the ninth one, which it almost felt like, and Andrew, feel free to contribute, like a different franchise
It
That
was.
the
with Chris
Chris Rock
Rock.
one?
Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like it was like irrelevant. I mean, not irrelevant, but it didn't feel like
It
the
was
other Saw
rebooty.
movies. Pardon?
It was rebooty. It felt
Yeah,
like
it
a
was
reboot.
very rebooty. Chris Rock is apparently a big Saw fan, which is kind of surprising, but I don't know. But we're not talking about Saw 9, we're talking about Saw 10 here. And they brought back Tobin Bell, so I was excited about that. And this particular film takes place between the first Saw and Saw 2. So if you haven't seen um,
Hmm.
the Saw franchise, don't worry about it. All you have to know is and have seen the first one. If you saw the second one, that's fine, but you don't have to have seen all the movies. My brother and I watched it a couple of weekends ago, and he even said ahead of time, oh, I haven't seen like the most recent like 5, 6 films. Don't worry about it. As long as you've seen the first or second, or at least the first, it's fine. It takes place between that. So Tobin Bell, for those of you who have not seen Saw, see it. It's fantastic. I got Andrew into it beginning of the pandemic to binge watch at least 1 through 8, I think, right? And we would talk about it. Yeah. So Tobin Bell is Jigsaw, the mysterious killer. So they portray him as, right? And he puts these people who have done something wrong, or he's not putting good moral people in these death traps that he's building, but it's meant to be set up as a test for really a second chance to shed some of those bad habits that you may have, or at least learn from your mistakes and start fresh with a new slate in a very warped, twisted type of way. So first film, if you, it's just they talk about it a lot, and even if you've seen like Scary Movie, I think what Scary Movie 4, they make fun of it. They have Dr. Gordon, who wakes up in this dirty bathroom with photographer Adam, who's on the other side. They're both chained by one leg, and the infamous, oh, we have saws, you have to saw off your leg. So that's like a classic, like, I don't want to give it away, but first Saw film, which I actually think is one of the worst of the Saw films, but that's my personal opinion. What, Andrew?
The first Saw film was bomb. Sorry. I thought it was
I mean, it's
classic.
good, but I think it gets like even better throughout the
Okay.
franchise, because it's not even, anyway, we won't go there because this is going to be like its own episode if I go into there. But nonetheless, Carrie
Eloise.
Elwes, thank you, because I can't pronunciate last names, who I know from The Princess Bride, plays Dr. Gordon. So that's the first film. Saw 10 covers the second film. You learn that Tobin Bell, aka Jigsaw, has brain cancer, terminal brain cancer, and he does not have a lot of time left. And upon learning about his sickness and that he only has a certain amount of time to live, he puts all of his energy into trying to get people to learn the lessons of life through these death traps. So while, he's doing all of these sinister things behind the scenes, which leads to Saw movies, 2 through 7, we'll go with 7, right? He is going to doctors and trying to make the most of his time still left on Earth and seeing if there's any treatments. So he's in a group at the beginning of the film, like as a support group, similar to like if you've seen Brent, with everyone that's in a support group for AIDS, HIV. He's in a support group with other people that are suffering from terminal cancer. And he is with this Black man who, at the beginning, big black guy, is saying that he has terminal cancer. He's stage 4 pancreatic, and very serious. And everyone's like very drawn and sick. And then fast forward maybe like 5-10 minutes later into the film, he sees the black guy out and about and looking healthy as a horse. And he's like, oh, you're John, right? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I forgot his name. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He's like, was. He shows a scar, puts his shirt up. I found this about this therapy that's being used. Let's go with Sweden, Switzerland, somewhere in Europe. And I was able to get this magic surgery coupled with this medical cocktail, and now I'm miraculously cured. Here's the website. He gives this website and more about the study for this outlawed treatment that nobody knows about. He does his own research. He calls this doctor, or this line, and the daughter of the original, I guess, founder who created this therapy treatment that's not being performed in the US gets back to him. How much time do you have? And he says, honestly, not much time left. And she says, well, you can meet us in Mexico. We'll add you to the list, and if you can come in the next week. So he flies down to Mexico, and this daughter of the founding doctor, accompanied by an anesthesiologist and some other people. They bring him into this old home in the countryside of Mexico. They don't want to tell others where they're located, so they get him into this van, and then they pretty much have this van, and it's crazy because it looks like there's some sort of heist going on, and they end up safely bringing him to this property, and this property is where they have him stay. And then in the backyard of this property, they have this makeshift, shall I say, lab where they're doing these surgeries, or warehouse where they're doing these surgeries and stuff for the time being in Mexico. Because again, they have to keep quiet. This is sort of under wraps. People can't know about it, etc. So he shows up, and he's just really in awe of how kind these people are to him. The woman who brings him in, and this woman who is of Mexican, I guess, lineage, she's saying that she also got the surgery for her form of cancer, and she's now well again. So he's just really bought into this dream surgery that he saw this guy just a few months ago who was in his support group, now healthy as a horse, and now this woman who claims that she was very sick as well, and she's offering her home up in Mexico. So he goes into the surgery, and because it's the brain, you see on the screen a picture of a brain, and then they tell him to count back and such, and then they'll do the rest. So then he wakes up, figure the next day, and the female doctor comes in and says, "It's done, you're great, just take a couple of these vials and you're good to go." And mind you, his head is all wrapped up. So he spends some time in Mexico, he draws, and then he starts taking these vials. And he is so grateful for the surgery. He decides to buy this tequila and go back to the property to thank the woman who initially opened the doors there, who was also a patient. And he walks in, and the whole house is deserted, broken glass, and he realizes once he gets to the backyard that he was conned. This was all just a scheme for money. He takes the bandages off his head, and where the hair was shaved, nothing. This guy was conned. And you're just like, at that point, I was watching my brother, and he's like, "What the F?" Ooh, they don't know who they just messed with. They have no idea who they just messed with. Tobin Bell was so thankful, and if you get to know Jigsaw, he's not a bad guy. He's a guy who wants to get revenge on people who do bad things and give them a chance to really change their life. So anyway, he finds out this is a whole scheme. Amanda makes a cameo appearance, and that's the point where I'm clapping. I'm like, yeah, Amanda, who's his one of his predecessors, and she just pops in, the actress who plays Amanda, and that's pretty dope. When she comes in, she's like, "Yeah, I'm here, I'm ready to go." So he calls her, basically "We have some work to do." And one by one, Pig Mask comes on. They bring the anesthesiologist, they bring this other female who's supposed to be, I believe, one of the nurses or someone else who was assisting the surgery, the actual doctor, and then the patient who was there, who apparently had throat cancer before, he shows up too. And yeah, let's just say there's a trap waiting for all of them on this new property. But I will say the traps are kind of lame compared to past films, if you know what I mean. It's all in one room, and they just go one by one. It's not separate rooms or a maze or a challenge. It's just they're all there in one room, and then pulling the strings behind glass is Jigsaw, Tobin Bell, and then Amanda, who's assisting him at this point because he is so weak and obviously not well. I liked it. Was it great? No, but I thought it was creatively put together, and it's just another, you could tell it felt like the old franchise again, unlike with Chris Rock. They dropped a lot of humor into it. So like there's one point where because they don't have, like, they have the recordings where you listen to the instructions, but Amanda comes in at a certain point, she's like, you're really gonna want to listen to the instructions, you don't want to like miss out on this, which is just kind of funny. And a lot of it's like tongue-in-cheek and humorous, more on like Amanda's part than anything else. She brings the comedic relief. But yeah, if you see Saw 3, yeah, she doesn't last long. So it's cool to have her make a cameo and then see all of these new, we'll just say victims, if you want to call them victims, who partake in the death traps, how they handle and if they're able to successfully get through their own experiment, as he would say. But I liked it. I felt really bad for Jigsaw, really bad. Like I don't think I felt as bad for him in any other film until this film, because you can tell he truly wants to live.
Mhm.
And these people straight up take his money and screw him over. And yeah, it's definitely it gets you angry as the viewer, and you definitely feel a certain way as he's coming back after he supposedly has the surgery, and then you know what's about to go down, and they realize like, oh shit, we conned the wrong guy.
Word.
Yeah. Andrew, you'd like it. Have you seen any of the Saw films, Kevin?
Yeah, I have seen at least the first three, probably the first four. I watched like one, two, and three almost back to back,
Yeah,
either earlier this year or late last year. If you're a big Saw fan, have you ever seen Cube?
I haven't.
So Cube came out in the mid to late 90s. And funny enough, it's about a group of people that wake up in a room and they don't know why they're there,
Okay.
and the whole place is a death trap.
Yeah.
Um, and what it is they have to solve the room they're in to move to the next room, and they have X amount of time to
Figure it
get
out.
out of the cube before they all die.
And all the
Um,
rooms are in the cube.
mhm.
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds like the film Escape Room.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the first one to ever do it, but
Sure.
it predates Escape Room for sure, but it predates
Saw.
Saw, I believe, also. But he was good. Like I remember watching Cube and being like, "That's really good." They made sequels. They got
Mhm.
progressively worse and worse and worse, but the first one was really good. Um, and I would say if the Saw movies are your jam, it's a little harder to watch because the special effects and stuff are,
Not up
90s
to par.
special effects.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're talking, 30 years at this point. Um, but it's
Mhm.
worth a watch, I think, if Saw's your jam. You don't have quite the same antagonist that, and Saw, you really like Jigsaw is really like screwing with them. Like he is a person they're interacting with. And I think in Cube, it's really more just the situation and them figuring out if they can trust each other, if they can't trust each other,
Right.
whatever. Um, but it was a good one. I remember watching it and really, really, really enjoying it, but it's been a long time. But
Yeah.
like I said, worth a shot if Saw is your thing.
I want to jump in really quick. So I went to Rotten Tomatoes to like just see like how the Saw franchise did like by installment. And I
First
was
one's the best one.
remember well actually, according to Rotten Tomatoes, it's Saw X, Saw 10. The
Hmm.
audience score is 89, the critic score is 80, right? So that's number one. Number two is yes, the first Saw. The critic score 50%, audience score 80%. What 84%. What makes me happy, what warms my heart is the only one I actually remember to this day is the insurance one. So sure enough, Saw fucking 6 is
Yep.
number 3 in the ranking.
It's-
Now it's nothing to sniff at. It's like 39% like critics, 49% audience,
I
but
don't
that
think
is the
critics
one.
get it. I don't think the critics get it.
What's that?
I don't think the critics get it.
Yeah, who fuck the critics? But anyway, what I was saying, but according to this list, it's like it's number 3, and like that's the one. Like that's the one that I remember the most because I binged it, so it all just blurred, right? But I just remember kind of sympathizing with the insurance guy, and that also gave you the humanity of Tobin Bell because Tobin's like, yo, like, why won't you approve like this thing because I'm sick? Insurance guy's like, yo, I'm sorry, my hands are tied. Like the company's not going to approve your claim, And then, yo.
So
Anyway,
interestingly enough, 10 sort of references the treatment
yeah.
that he ends up trying to do illegally. You got where I'm going?
Yeah. So it definitely, yeah. So,
So
I
they
mean,
all intertwine. Yeah,
yeah,
so there's a little bit of overlap, but yeah.
that was the one.
Andrew, I was kind of shocked that you felt that way about you because remember we were talking about
Oh
this.
yeah, we talked about like everything. Like I actually Googled shit and people were talking about, yeah, fuck the insurance guy, and I'm just like, dude, like whatever. Like it's business, But I think you guys already know I'm like Mr. Federman anyway. So y'all think I'm heartless. But I'm not heartless, I'm just pragmatic. There's a difference.
Yeah, you thought he shouldn't have been
Nah.
there.
But like, and he hit fuck it. You know how these go. Like he got it the worst. Like fuck. Like the way he went out and I think he actually saved people too. Like he was a good guy in that situation. He was saving his coworkers. Like because it was him and his coworkers were in this dungeon. And I'm like,
Yeah,
the
it was
coworkers
pretty
work
bad.
there, man. Like,
Yeah,
damn.
but it also sheds light on how ugly the insurance, medical
Yeah.
insurance companies
Yeah,
are.
it is ugly. It is. But I mean,
Very ugly.
they're cogs in a wheel. And
Mhm.
I don't think you should kill the cogs. But whatever.
He was
Actually,
the president. I understand him, but like, how about some of his coworkers, yes. Like the ones on the merry-go-round, that first of all, I thought that was the most creative death trap I've ever seen.
I again, my memory's spotty, but I may have to do a rewatch. But I'm just
Yeah,
happy
do
at
a
least
rewatch.
the one that I remember is in the top 3.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was looking at it on IMDb, and the first one is actually the highest rated on IMDb by a long stretch. I think the next closest, because the first one is a 7.6, I think the next closest is a 6.6.
And which one is
So
that?
there was actually a couple. I think I
3 was
went away
great.
from it.
2 was good too. I don't know.
Yeah.
They were all like 1 through 6. 7 was 8 was a prequel, you find out. 9 wasn't even part of the franchise. I liked it, but like, and then watching the other movies after the fact, like I was like, this doesn't compare.
Yeah, let
And
me see. Oh, it doesn't show them on here. That's a bummer. It's kind of
You
hard
can
to
you
see
can
them,
throw it back
but
in
yeah,
like
it's
editing post.
yeah, the first one was the highest rated one out of all of them though, which I thought was interesting.
that one's it's just 2 guys in a bathroom. Like, okay, fine, it's cool, I guess. I don't know. It's
I
not.
thought it was a mind F. Like for me, like it was a mind F, especially after, again, everyone knows the twist now, but we're still not gonna spoil for people who haven't seen it. But that twist, I loved it. I loved that twist. That was like, and I'm
Yeah,
just like, how do you do that? Like, how do you stay there for so long and not let on that you are, you know what I'm saying? Like that was, I respect. That is.
yeah.
Well, the
I think
character
it
now
was
is one of the directors, I think, too. Did you know that?
What's that?
The one who plays the photographer, I believe he's one of the directors or producers of the
Oh, okay.
franchise.
hmm.
Yeah, I'm just talking more about just like, in the movie, like the main, like the character. You saw it, right, Kevin?
Oh yeah, the first one.
Yeah. So the fact
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he's
Oh
the whole
yeah,
time, like that was crazy to me.
yeah.
Anyway, that was awesome.
It was a great twist at a time when I don't think that twists were like in every single friggin' movie, right?
No,
Like, I don't know.
Shyamalan started it.
Does Saw predate Shyamalan?
No,
No,
I think Lost 2004, but it's
Is it
still within
really the
like,
first one?
yeah.
yeah, something like that.
Wow. Yeah, I thought it was older than that. You're right, though. When was
Sixth Sense?
Sixth
I want to say
Sense?
1999.
I think so too.
That's my guess.
Yeah, 99.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Shyamalan was like the. I mean, there have been movies with twists before, but like, I mean, Citizen Kane. But it kind of became a thing where a movie had to have a twist to be considered, you know,
Smart.
yeah, smart and creative, and the one in Saw was fantastic.
I mean, every
So
ending in at least 1 through 8, 10, like, I don't know. Go see it and let me know your thoughts. I thought they did a good job at creating a film that takes place between
Yeah. Making
the
it work.
first. Yeah, they made it work. They made it work. So I thought it was good in that sense. But it definitely felt like, just lacking in terms of the capabilities of the death traps too. Um, but yeah, you definitely felt angry for
Yeah.
Tobin Bell and for Jigsaw. You're just like, screw these people. Like, bye. Do what you will with them at this point. Because I'm just angry. Like, I'm angry for him.
yeah.
So my brother liked it too. He was just like, once they got to the scene where, and if you see it, where he finds, and they have this in the preview, so I'm not spoiling it, that this whole surgery, miraculous surgery is a con. So, and it does play into 6 in the point because he's like, yeah, do you know there's this miracle drug and surgery, or that's like how it starts in 6, or you find out in 6 when he meets with that president of that insurance company. So I don't know. That's also up for debate too, because I remember going through the comments with you, Andrew, like, is that guy evil? Is he not evil? And you're absolutely right. He got it the worst out of anyone. Just his, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Mm,
Right.
but yeah, you got to watch them. They're great.
Yeah, I'll have to. Well, it's almost spooky season, so I'll get back on my horror
Yeah, there you
movie
go.
Should.
run. So I might knock them all out soon here. Because I watched a good amount of stuff last year in horror film season, so I'll get back into some of those. Um, all right, cool. Andrew, do you have one more thing?
Well, it's funny. I want to breeze through some things, actually, because I mean, I do want to talk about Baby Reindeer, but if that's too old and whatever, that's fine. And then the What If is just pretty like, flaky, whatever. Like it's just like it's old too. But Baby Reindeer, actually, I feel like that's gonna be hitting award season soon. And from what I've seen so far, like it's winning stuff. Like it
Mm-hmm.
won the Gotham TV Awards, Breakthrough Limited Series. And then for the Television Critics Association Awards, it won Outstanding Achievement in Movies, Miniseries, and Specials. And the rest of it's pending, and then some nominations, but like it's kicking ass. And that that miniseries definitely left an impression. Did
Mm-hmm.
you see it?
I saw it.
Okay, you saw it.
Yeah,
Um,
I haven't seen it, but everyone's telling me to see it.
it's good, but it's definitely heavier than I expected it to be. Especially, I'll just say that episode. I don't remember which number it is, but you know which one I'm talking about. The
oh
episode
my
that,
God. Yeah,
um,
that episode.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's really good, and I think what one of the things that makes it kind of a special show is that you have what feels like your good guy bad guy situation, right? Like he's your hero, she's the bad guy, but as you watch it, like she's never necessarily innocent, but at the
Oh,
same time, the reasons that she sticks around, the way that he inadvertently feeds her attention or her need for attention, um, is is problematic too. It doesn't mean it's his fault necessarily, but he is a victim too. Like his past and the choices that he makes are because of psychological issues that he never dealt with.
basically, it's like it's a film. It's film. I keep saying film. It's okay. First of all, Richard Gadd, who plays the main character, Donnie Dunn. Apparently, it's autobiographical. So
Semi-audible,
he,
yeah, it's close. Like,
but yeah, but he went through that stuff.
mhm.
So basically, um, when he's literally having like his meltdown on stage, and I'm just like, holy crap, you're acting your ass off right now. Like, it made sense because you went through this. Like, you actually did get, I'll just say it. Like, can I say it, or should I say it? Okay, you got raped, dude, by a guy who like you looked up to, and he basically used you. Like, he basically like told you, "Oh, I'm gonna work with you, and you can work, we're gonna write scripts together, but you just come over, get high, and then like he rapes you." Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, number one. Number two, the woman who stalks him, the real person that who believe it's based on, she's trying to sue Netflix right now.
Yep.
You know, that to me is like, okay, that to me is proof that you are actually a nut job. The way the way it ends, where it's like he's like basically it's a kind of a full circle thing. Like, on one hand, it like I think it serves to humanize like the stalker, but at the same time, I think what it boils down to, and I've talked about this on the show in the past, sometimes I get preachy, but you know, it's just me, my own like life. Like, one thing I've learned is having healthy psychological boundaries is everything. And it's not about having walls, it's about having doors and being able to open them and close them based on what's happening around you. And unfortunately, Donnie Dunn, the character, had none. Like, he literally was like just letting everything in, and there was no filter for bad energy, and he knew that this guy was being shady. I mean, everything leading up to the actual rape, the guy was still like fondling him and going down on him and all, and he kept coming back. Like, it's like the guy just doesn't know how to be like stand up for himself, basically. And then when Stalker shows up, it's the same thing. Like I've said, like in a group chat, the moment I get a whiff of like kookiness, I'm out, because I don't want that in my life. And I think you even said, Andrew, you're not going to like it because it's a show where the guy does everything you wouldn't do. But for me, what I liked was I like honest, unflinching gazes into the human psyche that I eat up. And then the whole like trans woman that he's dating, first of all, I think she killed it. I liked her. I
Yeah,
liked
she was
her a
great.
lot. She was really great. I hope to see her. And apparently she really is trans, by the way. You know, so I just, here's what I'll say about I guess we're talking about Baby Reindeer, and we didn't spoil too much. There's still like, if Lauren, if you see this, like there's still so much more that you can see that like I'm not even like telling you about.
Right.
But the performances
Yeah.
of the actual, like the woman who plays the stalker, she killed it. She
Oh my
killed
God,
it.
she's
She got
amazing.
Everybody
Best
killed it.
Actress, I believe, for the Emmys coming up this season.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's nominated. It's like this is a special show,
Yeah.
and I think it's special because it's so raw and
It's real.
honest, and I think that there's a lot to take away from it. But most importantly, you know, it's about dealing with your fucked up trauma. Because the thing is, the reason why he's having issues with his new girlfriend, and yeah, it's like he just has to face the demon that happened to him. And everyone's going, it's another thing, be kind. Like, everyone knows about the whole be kind thing, but it's like, really, just be kind. Because everyone's going through something, you know, different levels, but we're all going through some shit. And I think this series was just this is an example of a guy who did decide to make lemonade out of his lemon. And I think that, you know, because he's now has this big, like, he has this big hat, but the thing is, he had to transmute that pain into something,
For sure.
into art.
Yep.
So anyway, I was way more moved than I thought I was going to be.
Yeah, the other thing that is, you know, not to belittle anything else, but when you look at the rape scene, it's kind of important to remind people that this doesn't just happen to women, right? Like, the story is literally the story you hear about so many women. Also, there's a man in power that puts them in a bad position, then drugs them, and then does, you know, X, Y, and Z. Like, that bit is the story we've heard about women many times, and that doesn't make that any less, but it's also, important to remember that bad people with power don't necessarily care about whether you're male or female. They care about power.
Right.
And,
It's like
it's
Drake Bell and his story from Quiet on Set, how
right,
he
right.
looked to this talent coach who ended up
Yeah.
molesting.
Yeah. And it's about, these predators, they always understand the situation better than the victim. They know
Right.
what they're doing. They know what they're doing from beginning to end. And they know, how to get the result they want. So yeah, that was, it's definitely a good show. I definitely think you should, it's like one of those shows that everybody should watch,
Yeah.
but it's a heavy show for sure. Like it is, you don't walk away from it just like feeling all warm and fluffy at the end, even though, his story ends in like the best place really it
It
can.
can.
Um,
Exactly.
but it's not, yeah, it's not like he's walking away with, flowers in his hand and, skipping down the street. Um, but yeah, it is a really good show for sure.
I gotta say one thing that I didn't get, which is crazy, is like Donnie's father. Like when like I was totally expecting a different reaction
Hmm.
when Donnie finally tells his parents what happened to him. And when Donnie's father is like, I was raised Catholic, I didn't get that. I actually had to read to get the subtext. He goes, I was raised Catholic, do you think I'm any less of a man?
Hmm.
And I was just kind of like, exactly, your head turned, Lauren. I'm not going to spoil that, but just for those who've seen it, like when you read what he meant by that, then I was like, damn, okay. And so it's like, there's humor, like there's definitely some, it
Oh,
actually calls it dark comedy, but there's humor for sure. But it's like, there's also pain and trauma, but then there's also like moments that actually restore faith in humanity. And I think that
mm,
the reaction of his dad, because his dad is this like domineering, like kind of rough, like kind of like makes his son feel like shit kind of dad, where the mom is like more like kind of like running
Nurturing.
interference. But then when he's literally at his most vulnerable, like his dad is actually not like, fuck you, son. Like he actually embraced them. And that to me was it was fucking beautiful, man.
mhm.
So no, it's yeah. And someone just told me to watch it, and I'm thankful. Thank you, person who told me to watch it. Um, yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily quite required viewing, but I mean it's close. Like I think there's a
You want
lot
to think
yeah, there's a lot going on in it that is worth watching. So
UK based. So if you're a UK file, Kim, I
mm,
know you love the UK. Um, that might help make you want to watch it.
yeah.
Is Richard Gadd from the UK?
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, they're all
Yeah.
fucking
They're
British.
all from the UK.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So all right. Well, and then finishes out on a light note, Andrew, talking about what if.
Yeah, and I'll keep it short because I think we're about to hit the two hour mark. But
Yeah.
basically, as we all know, I like underdogs, but I also like winners. And the MCU was starting to worry me. I was definitely probably the most vocal critic of all the group as far as Phase 4 was concerned. But I was so vocal that when the holidays came and I was doing the girlfriend thing, I didn't bother with Echo, and I didn't bother with What If. I didn't have the time. But after Deadpool and Wolverine, my love for the MCU was reignited. So I'm like, you know what, Andrew? I'm gonna go back and watch What If, and I'm also gonna go back and watch Echo after this. And it's still a bit of a slog because there's like 9 episodes. I'm up to 4, and I gotta say, I'm really impressed. The first episode, what if Nebula joined the Nova Corps? Basically, it's like if you saw the first Guardians of the Galaxy, you go to Xandar. Glenn Close plays like the leader of this like police force in Xandar, and Nebula is like the only like true believer because Glenn Close saves her. Anyway, some weird shit happens, and she ends up like kind of saving the day. in corruption, and it's believable. And what I love about these what if animated series, I should also stop and say, what if is like an elsewhere tale. It's like hypotheticals, like what if Tony Stark did this, or like things that didn't happen in the movies, but it's just like situational shit. But I like them because a lot of the time they get the actual real actors to voice the characters, which is great. Great one. The second one, what if Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? This takes place in the 80s. So you're seeing like Michael Douglas as Ant-Man. You're seeing like King T'Chaka as Black Panther.
Yep.
Like, so it's like, and you're playing lots of 80s songs and stuff. Like that was cool. And Peter Quill as in Star-Lord, as like crazy superpowered kid fucking shit up. Like that was cool. And it felt cinematic. So that was just great to see. Number two. Number three, what if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? This is Jon Favreau, who basically it's like it. Oh yeah, it totally like throws back to like Die Hard, and I loved the obvious Die Hard references. And he eventually injects himself accidentally with like Banner's like serum and becomes a Hulk, like a version of the
Purple Hulk, right? Isn't he?
Yeah, Purple Hulk who's kicking ass, and it was just great. Like Chris Hemsworth is back, Mark Ruffalo is hilarious as Darcy in it. Like it was just like it was great to see Happy Hogan as the chauffeur, Jon Favreau, like actually playing a main character, and it's a Christmas episode. So having watched that on Christmas, I would have been very happy. I would have been like, yo, that was fun. It was great. And then finally, I'm only on 4, but what if Iron Man crashes the Grandmaster? So basically what happens there is after Iron Man like saves the day in the first Avengers movie, instead of falling back to Earth after like sending the nuclear missile into like the Chitauri warship, I love Lauren. She's like, what the fuck is a Chitauri? Anyway, he ends up on Sakaar, which of course is the planet from Thor Ragnarok. And then you've got Jeff Goldblum in there, who's actually Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
And you're actually seeing, what's great is seeing Tony Stark interact with these characters, because Tony Stark is snarky and Jeff Goldblum is snarky, and the actual animation and like all that. Honestly, I was like, I would have loved to see this on the big screen. This feels epic enough. And the best part about it, Mick Winger is like the voice actor playing Tony Stark. But I'm telling you,
he's good.
Just
he's
like
good.
RDJ, dude. It everything about it, it's like it just melts into the role. It was a great story, and it's one of those things where it's like I'd be happy going to a Marvel film, and but before the main film starts, maybe one of these animated shorts is plays before the movie, because I think that the animation was so well done. Seeing it on the big screen, maybe even 3D, would have been worth it. It was fun. It was like 40 minutes. It just felt epic. And it was cool seeing Gamora and Iron Man team up. Josh Brolin even shows up as Thanos. Like Korg gets Taika there. Like it was legit. So I'm only 4 episodes in. I'm going to finish the rest of it. So if you haven't seen What If, and I know some people like think that the first season was better, but no, I think that this season just is telling different stories. The first season was darker, but this one it's more fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm having a blast.
Yeah, it's really good. I really enjoyed it. I think my favorite episode was, well, my 2 favorite episodes, I guess, is 6 and 7. I think were probably the 2 I like the most. I really dug the Kahori character that they introduced in her story.
Yeah, I kept seeing that in my feed.
Yeah,
Yes.
she and there was talk of her becoming an actual character in the MCU, because she was 100% created for What If. She doesn't exist in Marvel Comics. She didn't exist anywhere else. There was a chance that she was going to come into the MCU, which would be nice because she's a Native American character. But with all the kind of pulling back that they're doing, I'm not sure if she'll show up or not, which is kind of a bummer. I hope that if they don't do that, then I hope the character makes it into the comics, because it's an interesting character and it's a really cool origin story there.
Looking forward to
Sounds
seeing
good. Yeah, cool. All right, one more thing, just to nerd out one more time, since you weren't here last week. Robert Downey Jr. is Doctor Doom. What do you think?
I don't get the haters. I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah, I feel like awesome. Like he's a hell of an actor. He won the Academy Award for Oppenheimer, dude. Like,
Hmm.
let the man cook. You
Yeah.
know, that's all I gotta say. And again, in Feige we trust. And the fact that I think, yeah, RDJ said the only way I'm coming back is if the Russos are back. So
Yeah.
it's like you get the band back together, dude. It's gonna be epic.
Yeah.
Um, and I hear, I mean, again, I'm not the I should get Chad again. I should talk to Chad, but I know there's different. Well, I know he's playing Victor Von Doom, so it's not going to be like Iron Man as Victor Von Doom, but they'll figure it out. They'll tell some sort of
Hmm.
story that like mixes it up the source material.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm super stoked.
Yeah, I am too, and I think what I said in our group chat, what I was saying to Andy is, I think if they were going to use Doom as a long-term character, like as the Thanos type character for 8 years or whatever, 10 years as the villain behind the scenes, I think maybe they would go with somebody else. I think they are doing a high impact, um, a little bit of a stunt casting, sure. But I think they're doing a high impact character with a high impact story that is going to last these two films. And he may show up in a couple other films or be hinted at in a couple other films, but it feels like Robert Downey Jr. signed on for these two movies. And that's it as Doom. And I think that's fine. I think people wanted Doom longer because they wanted more Fantastic Four, they wanted more other stuff. But I think the MCU has kind of resigned itself to, once this Battle World Secret Wars thing is over, it's really time for the X-Men. It's really time for those stories to start getting told. They'll stick with the Young Avengers, and a new Avengers movie and some other stuff too. But I think the X-Men are going to be a big part of the next phase. And I think you're better off casting, an Apocalypse or somebody like that as the big
The next
bad.
big bad,
Go, yeah,
1000%.
yeah. So I think they are filling the gap that was left behind by Kang, number one. And number two, they got an amazing actor to do it in the tight period that they want to do it in. And it is a tight period because the first one is in 2026. It's not that far off, really. And then the next one is 1 year later. So, I mean, they're going to crank these movies out,
Back to back.
and then be done with it, and then on to the next thing. So, the next couple of years in the MCU are actually going to be kind of exciting because they're going to be, once again, they're going to be moving towards something very specific. And I think that has always been when Marvel was at its best.
I love when in Wolverine and I keep saying Deadpool Wolverine, they actually address, yeah, we tried the multiverse, didn't work, take the L, move on. Like they actually
Yeah.
like address it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you. It's okay. Like to me, again, authenticity, just own it and move the fuck on. Like that's all we ask, I think, of anyone.
Yeah.
So that I thought that was cool that they did that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I dig the casting. I dig what's coming next. I like the idea that they've pared it down. I hope some of the things that they were talking about still come. I hope they still do a Shang-Chi 2. I really liked him. They've pretty much committed to not doing Eternals 2, which for me is a bit of a bummer. I really think that Eternals was,
You like them?
it was different enough. Like it wasn't necessarily um critical to the MCU, although it apparently is going to be the reason we have adamantium and all that. Um, but I feel like it was different at a time we needed different, but it was too different for the casual viewer to latch onto. Um, it could have been, I don't know if it could have been done better, or what they needed to do, but it just didn't quite work the way that they wanted it to.
I was rooting for it.
Yeah.
I was super excited for it, and when I saw it, yeah, I was like, this ain't it. Sorry, I was not happy with it. But I know you guys were, or like you and Pete particularly.
I
But
was, but I also think it was maybe the wrong director for the MCU. I don't think she was action oriented enough. Not that every movie has to be action oriented, but it's a comic
it
book
was the
film. Like there's,
pacing.
yeah,
I just felt the pacing was not good, and it was way too plotting and too low. And again, like I think that again, the pacing of Deadpool and Wolverine was perfect.
Oh
And
yeah.
again, I still personally feel like the most perfectly paced film in the entire fucking shit, in my opinion, is Infinity War. It doesn't let
Mhm.
up. It's
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom.
Well, you can see, I mean, you can have a great director do a bad comic book movie. Ang Lee did the first Hulk with Eric Bana back in the day, and that movie was an atrocity. And Ang Lee did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is friggin' amazing. But it's just sometimes somebody may be ultra creative and make beautiful films and things like that, but just may not be their genre.
Right.
And you kind of have to know that too. So. All right, cool. Well, I think we covered everything and we started strong. We got everybody really nice and sad, and then we finished with some fun stuff. So we're good there. So Andrew is back next week. I really have to find something to watch so I actually matter on this show. That'd be great. And we will go from there. So to everybody watching or listening, I say thank you. Have a great week, and we will see you next time.